As always, we remain interactive throughout the course of the evening. You can text us at 71010 or you can give us a call at 1-877-518-5151. I've got a great group of people in here this evening to tell us a very interesting story. David Klein is here, Bert Klein is here, and Costa Botes is here as well. And they've got a new movie coming out, Candyman, which is at the Hot Dogs Festival in Toronto. But this is a fantastic and amazing story. You've got a fantastic hat on, first off, and I've got to talk to you about that first and foremost. Tell me about the hat.
The hat was made for me by Nudie, and Nudie was the tailor in North Hollywood, California, that made all the outfits for Elvis. Everything that Elvis wore with rhinestones came from Nudie.
Now, I've got to say, if you're watching the video a little later on, because we're going to have this as part of our website later on, so you can check it out at 10:02 on newstalk1010.com and cjad.com. I'll give my audience the best description I can. It's a cowboy hat, and it's got a lot of shiny diamonds, which look like almost like rhinestones
And it's
diamonds
very
on
heavy.
it.
It can give you a brain tumor.
It is. It's pretty heavy, and it's covered in jelly beans.
Yes,
for a very good reason, because you are the Candyman.
Yes, and in 1976, I invented the Jelly Belly jelly bean.
The Jelly Belly, and I've got a whole bunch of them in front of me, and I'm going to try and eat some while I do this interview. But the Jelly Belly jelly bean is famous worldwide. It was the first sort of designer gourmet jelly bean that the world has ever seen. Where did you come up with the idea?
I was talking to a buddy on the phone, and it was 8:15 at night. My wife was at a La Leche League meeting with Bert.
Bert, your son, who's here and who
Yes.
worked on the film.
Yes. And I was talking to a buddy on the phone, and I said, we were always talking about new businesses to go into. And I said, what if I opened up a store just selling jelly beans?
Now, were you in the candy business at the time?
I was a candy and nut distributor.
And you thought jelly beans.
Just jelly beans.
It just came out of the blue, like
just
jelly
beans. Nothing else. No licorice ropes, just jelly beans. And I had about $800 to my name.
Where do you start with
With
that kind of
$800,
money?
it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't afford a store, so one of my nut customers had an ice cream parlor. I used to sell him nuts for his ice cream. And I said, how about I need a little corner of your store where I can put in a little jelly bean stand, and I'll give you half of whatever it takes in.
Did you have any clue at the time on what you were sitting on top of?
Oh, I knew it right from the start.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How did
and
you
I
know?
never gave,
How did you know?
they were the best jelly bean around. There was not even a close second to them.
Because before that, jelly beans were just your straight up generic taste.
Exactly. And these were flavored deliberately on the inside as well as the shell. So it was flavored both, and they were made smaller, so there would be about 400 to the pound and 4 calories each.
Now I remember because I used to get my dad these my dad loves the Jelly Belly.
Licorice or just all of them?
I used to get the all sorted box that they would sell.
That was great. That tackle box?
The tackle box, yeah.
Where were you at the time?
We're in the States.
Yes,
It would be in Boston. I think it was just outside of Boston.
I remember that famous tackle box that had a little scoop in it too.
Yeah.
That was at the tackle box, yes.
Yeah, which was a great idea. But let's talk about the flavors. What was the first flavor that you came up with? Because I mean, you've got a wide selection, right?
We had watermelon, we had green apple, we had licorice, we had coconut, with basic good flavors. Root beer, because I love root beer.
Yeah, the root beer one was fantastic.
I love root beer. Either root beer you like it or you don't.
Yeah.
Same with the buttered popcorn, and we've got some. I'm talking like I still own the company. Jelly Belly has some flavors that are. It's still the best jelly bean around.
Still after everything that's gone through, and we're going to get through the whole story here.
It's still the
just a few
best jelly bean around. Our purpose of this is not to disparage the product. It's a great product.
Now, I mean,
buy them. We get no money from it, but buy them.
I'm here with the Candy Man, who is David Klein, and his son Bert Klein is here. Let me ask you, what was it like growing up with a dad who was the Candy Man, the guy who invented Jelly Belly and all these great flavors of jelly bean?
I remember it like it was yesterday, and it's just as crazy as it sounds. I mean, basically, my dad had $800 to his name, and we lived in a small house. He was literally storing them in a room called the Bean Room in a tiny little house. I learned my colors as a small child, you know, and I played games with them. As in fact, my little daughter does the same thing too. Basically, you know, it was a happy 5 years. I saw my dad on television. He was on television constantly on all the big talk shows. Regis Philbin, what's his name, Mike Douglas, and he would always wave hi to me on the wave hi to me on the TV, and it was it was
It's good
you know what,
years.
it was a magical time. It was really great.
Good years.
Yes.
How big did it become?
Huge. Huge to the point where they could not even supply me. My major mistake was thinking that they were a much larger company than they were.
Who's they? You mean the Goldens?
Herman Goldens.
Yes,
Herman
Herman
Goldens.
Goldens.
They led me to believe that they could supply with any orders that I gave them, and that did not be the case.
So it just fell apart at that point.
Well, it didn't really fall apart, but we had to keep people waiting for orders, and then
Right.
that invites the competition in because
You leave an opening and they're going to take advantage.
Exactly. In
How
fact-
long? To tell
some
how long
people were
waited?
some people were waiting for a year for their
For
orders.
jelly beans.
Yes. In fact, there was one Canadian company,
Yeah.
Morris National, that stepped right in there, and they made a fortune on it when we could not supply anybody.
Now, did you have the rights to sell flavored jelly beans, or was it a case of other companies could get in and start selling flavored ones?
Interestingly enough, in the United States, you cannot protect any ideas. So if you come up with a candy product, the only thing you can protect is the trademark. Nobody could sell a jelly bean as Jelly Bellies, but you cannot take a patent out in the United States on a food product.
So you could basically sell them under a different name. You could sell flavored jelly beans under a different name as long as it wasn't called Jelly Belly.
And there were plenty of them. There were plenty of them that came up.
Let's talk to you, Costa, because the idea for this film, where did it come from?
Well, the idea came from Bert, who sent me an email saying, "Check out my dad's blog." That's all he said. Now, I'd sort of heard 5 years earlier, we were out at dinner, and Bert's wife Jennifer said, "You know, Bert's dad did something kind of special some years ago." And I said, "Do tell." And she said he invented the Jelly Belly jelly bean. And for most people in New Zealand, where I come from, the Jelly Belly is not a well-known product. But I recalled quite clearly the association with Ronald Reagan, because I always thought that was kind of odd that a president, a very important person, would love jelly beans. I thought it was kind of silly. It stuck in my mind. And then I leaned over the table and I said, what's that all about, Bert? And his reaction was kind of mystifying to me. He almost looked the other way and ignored my question. And Jennifer said, he doesn't like talking about it.
Was that true, Bert?
Oh, absolutely. And we cover all that in the film. It brought a lot of joy initially and a lot of pain from our entire family. It's all from this little jelly bean. I would say the big thing that changed was that, we were thinking about having kids and eventually did have kids. And I wanted my kids to know what my father had done. And it was an amazing story. And we've been toying with it, making a documentary, and I'm a big fan of Costa's work. He's a collaborator with Peter Jackson, directed some very well-known documentaries, and bottom line is I just like them. I liked his style. So Jennifer and I kind of said, let's talk to Costa about doing this, because it's an amazing story, and we could have gotten anybody we wanted to do it, but I wanted Costa's flair and vision for the movie.
I don't want to give too much away, but when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the roller coaster part of all of this, because the good times were good, but like anything, there was a downside to it all. We'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more with Candyman David Klein. Bert Klein is here. Costa Botes is here as well. More as the Ryan Doyle Show continues.